Hi, this is my dad. I just learned that he has videos that have hundreds of thousands of views, so I figured if I put a video of him, I'd get more subscribers and views and traffic in my channel. But this video has nothing to do with dogs.
Well, aside from the dog run.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's up? What can I answer for you?
Dad,
Yes.
what do you really do?
I kind of make it up. So what I do is I work for people that have what's called copyrights, people that write songs or people that do jokes, comedy routines. And when they write these songs or they do comedy routines, they get something called a copyright. So the minute they write it down and record it, they get this copyright. And there's two of them. There's one for the recording and there's a second separate one for the words of the song that got recorded. So what I do is I work for this one, the words or the musical song that got recorded. And I make sure that these are being properly licensed and paid for by Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music and Amazon and other places like that.
Could I get an example, please?
Yeah, sure. So I always do this one. It drives everyone crazy. Okay, there's a record label called Arista Records, and they recorded a song called I Will Always Love You. They hired this incredible singer named Whitney Houston who sang I Will Always Love You. So the recording is owned and controlled by Arista Records. But do you know who wrote the lyric and melody to that song?
Dolly Parton.
How'd you know that?
I always hear you talking about it.
Dolly Parton wrote the lyric and the melody. So those are the two copyrights, one for Arista Records for the recording and a second separate one for Dolly Parton that wrote the lyric and the melody. So I work for the Dolly Partons of the world or for the companies that work for the Dolly Partons of the world to make sure they're being properly licensed and paid when those recordings stream on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Music or all these other places on the internet.
How did you know this is what you wanted to do with your life?
Oh, I had no idea. I literally had no idea. I went to college. I had a degree in something called sociology. I waited on tables. I had my own little business where I sold personalized children's books out of a kiosk in a shopping mall. I worked in bars and served drinks and cleaned tables. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life until my high school friend Joel asked me to help him start a record label. It's called Spin Art Records, and that was way back in 1990. And for 17 years, Joel and I ran this record label together, and I just kind of fell into doing it, and I really loved what I do.
How did your companies get so big?
I guess our companies got so big because we just survived. Sometimes you just win by not going out of business. And so at Spin Art Records, for 17 years we did this. And all these other record labels came and went, but we just sort of stayed alive. And when you stay alive, people notice you, and we began to release more important or larger artists like Frank Black or the Pixies or Echo and the Bunnymen. But honestly, the company that really grew big for me, called TuneCore, that happened because Spin Art Records went out of business. I literally didn't know what to do next, and I was taking a shower one day, and I came up with this idea for this company called TuneCore, which kind of changed the world for the music industry by allowing anyone to distribute their music and put it onto the shelves of like iTunes or Spotify and keep their copyrights. And then when the music sold, they would get all the money. No one had ever done that before, and the company just took off.
And how many companies did you have?
Well, I started with the Owl's Personalized Book Den. That was a company that sold those personalized children's books out of a kiosk in a shopping mall. That'd be number one. Spin Art Records was number two. TuneCore, that was number three. Then that got bought by a company called Believe Digital. Number four was a company called Audium. And that's where I began to work for the Dolly Partons of the world to make sure they're being properly licensed and paid for. And then that company got bought by a company out of Canada called SOCAN. And then I started another company called Word Collections, which is where I work now, where we work for both comedians and songwriters. Like we work for Metallica, and we also work for the Robin Williams estate, as an example, to make sure they're being properly licensed and paid when their songs and comedy routines are being used on the internet.
How did you get all these famous companies and people to hire you?
How did I get all these famous people and companies to hire me? I guess I just never took no for an answer. I always say it's kind of like water on stone, right? The Grand Canyon, that was just a river running on stone over millions and millions of years. And I figured you always start at no, so what's the worst thing that can happen if you call somebody or ask them a question? You'll end up at no. That's where you started. So you just keep persisting and persisting, and you always do what you say, the way you say you're going to do it. You over-deliver your promises, and eventually you earn the trust of people. And I got very lucky. One of my clients was a band called Metallica, one of the largest, most popular rock bands in the world. and I got to work for them. It took me 8 years to get them to say yes. 8 years. And
But
they
you
finally
just
gave me a shot.
You just kept asking them over
I
and
did.
over?
I did. I kept going back, asking again and again. And finally, 8 years later, they gave me a shot. And I delivered for them, and I guess they were impressed because now with my new company, Word Collections, they actually became my lead investor in the company.
And how did you get all the other people? Like, did Metallica tell them about you, or did you just do the same idea as you did with Metallica?
It's another great question. So I don't know if Metallica would tell people, but just the fact that I could tell people I was working for them means something. So I began to work for Jason Mraz and Bob Dylan and Metallica and the Red Hot Chili Peppers and George Thorogood and Mike Campbell, who wrote songs with a guy named Tom Petty and a whole bunch of other artists and musicians. And as each one comes in and I'm able to do what I say the way I say, it communicates to others that, hey, this guy can really get the stuff done, or we wouldn't trust him with it. And so that's how I guess I do it, through word of mouth and just being able to accomplish the goals that they ask me to do for them.
Okay. What's your favorite type of music?
Oh, at this point, it crosses the spectrum. It's everything from classical to hard rock to pop, EDM, and everything in between.
Well, then what used to be your favorite type of music? Like when you just started doing stuff with music?
Sure. So Spin Art Records was what we call an indie rock label, independent rock music. A lot of people call it shoegazer. They call it shoegazer because when they dance, they look at their shoes a lot and go like this. And so that sort of indie rock music was really what I was into, but I really like guitars. I miss guitars in a lot of modern day pop music. There's still a lot that I like, but guitar-based, good harmonies, good melodies, sometimes some pop vocals, with a little bit of an edge to it. That's kind of what I like.
Would you wish there was more rock in the world?
There is a lot of rock in the world. I just wish rock was more popular, but everyone's got their opinions and tastes, and just because I like it doesn't mean someone else should.
So, thanks for the interview, and if you're watching this, consider checking out my dog videos.
Oh, her dog videos are awesome. Her dog videos are with our dog Copper, who, for some reason or other, Kira can read his mind and puts that into his videos. They're worth watching. They're really good.
Okay, and also consider subscribing to Jeff, my dad.
Sure, why not?
Thanks for watching. Bye!